June 1943. A German tank sits in an open field near Kursk, Russia. From the outside, it is magnificent. It is the Tiger one, longer than anything Germany had built before, thicker armor, a gun so powerful that at distance, nearly nothing the Soviets could deploy could penetrate it. But inside the engine compartment, a different story is unfolding. The Maybach engine is running hot, hotter than it should. The transmission is showing signs of stress. The final drives are straining. These mechanisms transfer power to the tracks. They were never designed to carry this much weight. This is the contradiction at the heart of German armored warfare. Germany built the most impressive tanks on the battlefield, but they could not build enough of them. They could not keep them running reliably. They could not supply them adequately, and they could not absorb their losses. This is the story of how Germany's pursuit of technical superiority became strategically irrelevant. Their brilliant tank designs dominated individual engagements, but the war was decided by production capacity and logistics. In 1939, German armor doctrine was defined by a single word: Blitzkrieg, lightning war. The early German tanks were not designed to be the heaviest. They were not designed to be the most powerful. They were designed to be fast, to exploit breakthroughs, to move before the enemy could react. The Panzer IV was the backbone of German armor in 1940. It weighed only about 20 tons. It carried a 37mm gun. It was not about raw power. It was about mobility. And this doctrine worked. The Panzer IV became the weapon of Blitzkrieg. It worked in Poland. It worked in France. It worked across North Africa. For 3 years, German tanks seemed invulnerable. Then came 1941. Everything changed. June 22nd, 1941. Operation Barbarossa. Germany invades the Soviet Union. German tankers crossed into Russian territory expecting to repeat the victories of France. Then they encountered something they did not expect: the T-34. Erwin Adus was a designer at Henschel. He said this about the moment Germans first saw Soviet tanks. There was great consternation when it was discovered that the Soviet tanks were superior to anything available to the Heer. The T-34's sloped armor deflected German shells. Its 76mm gun was more powerful than the Panzer III could match. Its wide tracks gave it mobility through Russian mud. German tanks could not achieve this mobility, not in mud, not in snow. The T-34 was first encountered on June 23rd, 1941. It outclassed the existing Panzer III and IV. At the insistence of General Guderian, a special Panzer Commission was dispatched to the Eastern Front. Their mission was to assess the T-34. They identified several features as most significant. The sloping armor gave improved shot deflection. It also increased effective armor thickness. The wide track improved mobility over soft ground. The 76.2mm gun had good armor penetration. It fired an effective high-explosive round. For the first time, German tanks were outclassed. German officers sent urgent reports to Berlin. The T-34 had to be answered, not with better tactics, not with better training, with new machines, bigger machines, more powerful machines, machines capable of defeating this new threat. This moment forced a fundamental shift in German tank design, away from speed and maneuverability, toward firepower and armor, away from blitzkrieg, toward something heavier, something more complex, something that would ultimately prove self-defeating. German designers understood the challenge immediately. Development of the Panther was prompted by the introduction of the T-34 in late 1941. The Panther was officially called the Panzerkampfwagen 5. It was designed specifically to counter the Soviet threat. It featured sloped frontal armor like the T-34. It carried a high-velocity 75mm gun. This gun was more powerful than the Panzer IV could field. On paper, the Panther was superior to the T-34. In many technical respects, it was the better tank. But here is where the story becomes complicated. The Panther was a medium tank. It weighed 45 tons. It had a crew of 5. It was designed to counter the Soviet T-34 tank. In weight, it was comparable to Soviet heavy tanks. 45 tons. That is more than double the weight of the original Panzer III. To mount a larger turret and gun, engineers had to strengthen the hull. To fit thicker armor, they needed more steel. Each improvement added weight. The Panther had essentially the same Maybach engine as the WWII. This engine produced 690 horsepower. It was a powerful engine, but it had to move 45 tons. That is nearly twice the mass the engine was designed for. The Panther had better gun penetration than the WWII. It was lighter and faster. It could traverse rough terrain better. But the cost was constant mechanical problems. Guderian wrote a report on March 5, 1944. He noted that constant improvements to the Panther tank series resulted in positive feedback. However, the early mechanical difficulties had finally been ironed out of the design, but that took years. Early Panthers were notorious for breaking down, very notorious. While the Panther program was underway, Hitler and his generals became fascinated by a different concept, a heavy tank, even more powerful than the Panther. Weight increase to 45 tons was ordered. An increase in gun caliber to 8.8 centimeters was ordered. This was ordered on May 26, 1941. The due date for the new prototypes was April 20th, 1942. That was Adolf Hitler's 53rd birthday. The result was the WWII. The WWII was built around the legendary 88mm gun. The 88mm KWK 36L/56 was the most powerful anti-tank gun then in use by any army. It was capable of penetrating 112mm of armor at 1,400 meters. The WWII also carried heavy frontal armor. The Tiger had the best quality armor of any German tank. The rolled homogeneous nickel steel plate had the best homogeneous armor hardness level of any World War II tank. This meant it was stronger and less brittle than other tank armor. The tank had formidable firepower. The tank had thick armor. To crews and commanders, the Tiger seemed invulnerable. In one-on-one tank duels, it was supreme. But here is the critical fact. The Tiger was in production for 2 years. Production ran from July 1942 to August 1944. Only 1,347 Tiger Ones were built in that entire time. It took 300,000 man-hours to build one Tiger. Due to slow production rates at the factories, incorporation of modifications could take several months. It took about twice as long to build a Tiger One as other German tanks. And then Germany built an even heavier tank, the Tiger II, also known as the King Tiger. Its final version, the Tiger II, weighed 68 tons. This was the heaviest tank used during World War II. The Maybach power plant used up to 400 gallons of gasoline. This was for every 100 miles of travel. 68 tons, 400 gallons per 100 miles. An engine straining under weight it was never designed to carry. Here is what the war did not show in propaganda videos. Tactically, this meant moving Tiger units constantly. They had to move to parry German breakthroughs. Constant movement caused excessive mechanical wear. As a result, Tiger battalions rarely entered combat at full strength. The transmission broke. The final drives failed. Track failures occurred. Engine fires happened. Broken gearboxes meant many Tigers broke down. Many Tigers had to be abandoned. A German tank mechanic in 1944 spent more time doing maintenance on a Tiger than on a Panzer III. More time replacing worn components. More time troubleshooting mechanical failures. Throughout the war, the Tiger's greatest weakness was poor mechanical reliability. If preventive maintenance was not performed regularly, the transmission would fail. The great weight of the machine caused this failure. The result was a great number of Tigers abandoned. Their crews destroyed them due to mechanical breakdown. Despite its impressive performance in combat, the Tiger tank was consistently hampered by ongoing mechanical reliability issues. Its substantial weight approached 60 tons. This weight severely strained its mechanical systems. Frequent breakdowns resulted. Particularly problematic were the tank's engine and transmission. The powertrain frequently failed to handle the immense stress. The vehicle's massive bulk caused this failure. Combat conditions made the problem worse, and when a Tiger broke down, recovery was a nightmare. A damaged Tiger could not simply be abandoned. It was too valuable. It was too complex. It was too heavy. Many Tigers were not lost to enemy fire. They were lost to mechanical breakdown. Since the vehicle weighed so much, those that broke down near the front lines were often unrecoverable. Their tremendous weight made recovery impossible. The weight created tactical problems. These problems became strategic disasters. The Tiger tank's combat weight was 56 tons. This was often too heavy for small bridges. Most bridges had 35-ton weight limits, so the Tiger was designed to ford bodies of water. It could ford up to 5 meters deep. This required unusual mechanisms. Ventilation and cooling mechanisms were needed when underwater. Bridges that a Panzer IV could cross without incident would collapse under a Tiger. This was a major operational constraint. In Russia, during the spring season, roads and fields turned into morasses. This was the Rasputitsa, the mud season. The overlapping road wheels had a tendency to freeze together. This happened when exposed to mud and the cold, harsh Russian winter. The sheer width of the German tank created another problem. In order to move the tank by rail, a narrower set of tracks had to be fitted. This allowed the tank to be placed on a flat railroad car. The tank required multiple sets of tracks. This was a logistical nightmare. Fuel consumption was another crippling problem. The average cost of a Tiger was 250,000 Reichsmarks. But more important for operations was fuel. A Tiger consumed fuel at a rate that became a strategic liability. Germany was fuel-starved. This consumption made the problem worse. The Tiger consumed fuel rapidly. German tankers sometimes found themselves sitting in concealed positions. They sat idle, not because of enemy activity, but because they did not have enough fuel to move. Their superior gun meant nothing if they could not move. Their superior armor meant nothing if they could not move. They sat still, waiting for fuel that did not come. Here is the fundamental strategic problem. No amount of technical superiority could overcome it. The United States and the Soviet Union chose a different path. Production of the M4 began in 1942. Eventually, 49,234 were built. This made the M4 the principal tank of US and other Allied armored forces. The M4 Sherman was not the best tank in the world. It was not better than a Tiger. The Sherman's 75mm gun was not special. It was not powerful against the latest German tanks, particularly the Tiger and Panther. In one-on-one tank battles, one Tiger could destroy multiple Shermans. This is a fact, but the Americans could build Shermans in staggering numbers. Between 1942 and 1945, 49,000 Shermans rolled off American assembly lines, various makes and models. That is equal to all German tanks manufactured over 10 years. The 10 years beginning in 1935. The Soviet Union did the same with the T-34. In terms of tank production, the only World War II-era tank to exceed the M4's production was the Soviet T-34. Approximately 84,070 units were built. Germany was pouring enormous resources into building relatively small numbers of complex, heavy machines. By war's end, here are the numbers. The total number of German Tiger and King Tiger tanks produced was 1,835. That is all. Number of Panther tanks built was 4,800. So Germany produced roughly 6,635 heavy tanks total. The United States produced 49,324 Shermans. The Soviet Union produced approximately 84,070 T-34s. The mathematics were not in Germany's favor. Companies such as Pullman Car Company and Ford Motors produced nearly 50,000 Shermans. The German Tiger tank's costly design saw about 1,300 reach the battlefields. If a Tiger was lost, it was a pivotal loss. But if a Sherman was destroyed, the US could affordably replace it. Why was German production so limited? Complexity, cost, the decision to pursue technical superiority. This decision meant not pursuing mass production. It took 300,000 man-hours to build one Tiger. This took almost twice as much time as a Panther required. The average cost of a Tiger was 250,000 Reichsmarks. By comparison, a Sherman in 1942 cost $33,000 to produce. Each Tiger cost roughly 6 times what it cost to build a Sherman. Production of Tiger I began in July 1942. The Tiger first saw service against the Red Army in September 1942. This was near the town of Muga, is about 43 miles southeast of Leningrad. The Tiger saw service against the Allies in Tunisia in December that same year. Production began in July 1942. It began at a rate of 25 tanks per month. Production peaked in April 1944. At peak, production reached 104 tanks per month. Even at peak production, Germany was making 104 Tigers per month. The United States was producing roughly 2,000 Shermans per month. The disparity was insurmountable. It was impossible to overcome. By late 1943, the consequences were becoming visible. They were visible on the battlefield. The Panther was rushed to the front in January 1943. It took part in Operation Citadel. The attack was delayed several times. This was because of mechanical problems. The eventual start date of the battle came only 6 days after the last Panthers had been delivered. This was far too soon. This resulted in major problems in Panther units during the Battle of Kursk. Tactical training at the unit level was seriously deficient. Radio coordination by radio was seriously deficient. Driver training was seriously deficient. German tanks appeared on the battlefield in impressive numbers. They seemed to dominate engagements, tank after tank, tiger after tiger, defeating Soviet armor. But behind the scenes, the logistical system was already failing. Tanks broke down and could not be repaired quickly. Fuel supplies were insufficient. Recovery vehicles were inadequate. One note of interest was the poor reliability of the German tanks. Both the Panther and Tiger suffered constant mechanical failures. Constant failures meant that German tank divisions were rarely able to field a full complement of tanks. They were often diminished. Combat readiness fell below 50%. German divisions that showed 30 tanks on paper might have only 10 or 15 available for any given operation, sometimes fewer than that. Meanwhile, American forces maintained higher availability rates. Their simpler machines broke down less frequently. Their supply systems were fed by enormous industrial capacity. Tanks could keep flowing to the front. The great contradiction of German armored development is this. Germany built the best tanks on the battlefield, but they could not build enough of them. They could not keep them running reliably. They could not supply them adequately. They could not absorb their losses. Technical superiority became strategically irrelevant. A Tiger tank in Normandy on June 6, 1944, was still a superior machine. But there were only a few Tigers in Normandy. There were thousands of Shermans. Against 40,000 Allied Shermans, the Nazis fielded only 1,835 Tiger and King Tiger tanks. They fielded 4,800 Panther tanks, for a grand total of 6,635. As the war progressed, German tankers found themselves increasingly desperate. They abandoned tanks. They scuttled tanks. Recovery was impossible. Fuel was unavailable. Their machines broke down. Replacement parts took weeks, sometimes months. Meanwhile, American and Soviet tank crews were winning, not through superior machines, but through overwhelming numbers and through the ability to sustain those numbers. The fundamental truth of armored warfare in World War II was this. It was not a war won by the superior tank. It was won by industrial capacity, by logistics, by the ability to replace losses, by the ability to maintain operations over time. The story of German heavy tanks reveals a deeper truth. This truth extends far beyond World War II. Military effectiveness is not only about the quality of individual weapons, it is about the entire system that supports them. Factories producing replacements, fuel depots, maintenance facilities, transportation networks, trained mechanics and replacement crews. A superior tank that breaks down frequently is less effective. It is less effective than an inferior tank that runs reliably. A more powerful gun is irrelevant. It is irrelevant if you cannot keep the tank supplied with ammunition. An impressive machine is useless. It is useless if you cannot afford to lose it. German planners understood these principles in theory, but under the pressure of war, they made a choice. They pursued technical superiority. They built impressive machines. They created tanks that looked like the future of armored warfare. What they forgot was this. In a total war fought between industrial powers, quantity and sustainability matter more. They matter more than individual superiority. The M4 Sherman weighed 32 tons. It had a crew of 5. The M4 Sherman was a winner by quantity, not by quality. Germany built the best tanks. The Allies built enough tanks. And in the end, that difference determined the outcome. In all of World War II, Germany produced 1,347 Tiger Is. After this, Henschel built 490 Tiger IIs. Production continued until the war's end. The Panther was produced in 6,000 units. Germany's total heavy and medium tank production during the entire war came to roughly 8,000 vehicles. In the same period, the United States produced 49,324 Shermans. The Soviet Union produced approximately 84,070 T-34s. These are not just different numbers. These are different philosophies of warfare, different understandings of what determines victory in an industrial total war. The Germans built impressive machines. The Allies built winning systems. And that is the real lesson of German heavy tanks.